Cloud. Good morning. My name is Niran Kaur, and I wanted to share a bit of a broader sense of my evolving philosophy around exercise, and more specifically, strength training or going to the gym, that kind of sense of exercise. And what I wanted to start with is that what I have grown to feel in my own body is that when I exercise from a place of curiosity about what I feel inside, how I'm moving, how I'm feeling when I'm moving, when I can do it with a great sense of observation of myself, then it's more fun. I do it more often. So it's not something I have to do. It's not on my list of things to do, but I long to do it. So I pick things that I love to do. And when I'm doing them, I'm in exploration of how I feel in my system. And so I would encourage you to just consider that in your own experience of exercise, whether it's riding a bike or walking through the woods or going to the gym with your husband, that it become a relationship. It's a continued extension of your relationship with your body and how you move your body and how you're aware of how your body moves and what your body's telling you the whole time. And I remember I used to be a personal trainer. My background is in exercise physiology, so that was what I thought I was here to do, that I was here to show people how to be in their body and be more physically fit. And so when I was a personal trainer in the Albany YMCA, while my husband was, he was getting his MLS, his library science degree, and I traveled with him. He wasn't my husband yet, but I left a job at a hospital, and I just was like, well, let me personal train at the Y for a while and see what that's like. It was like downtown Albany. It was a totally different crowd than I was used to. And I remember some of the things I would say to my clients. I know they were like, huh? And that my boss, I really liked my boss at the time. And when I left, I did that for 2 years on and off. It was great. I rode my bike to work, personal trained all day, taught classes, and then rode my bike back. We had one car. It was fun to live in the city. But I realized at that time, so my boss, when I left, he gave me this award. And the award was, and he was a really good trainer. He was well known in the Albany area. He gave me an award for being the most naturally authentic personal trainer. And I was like, what does that mean? And this is kind of I'm sharing a bit of my own personal journey around, my professional journey. So anyway, he gave me this award, and I was like, what do you mean by that, Larry? I think I still have it. And those might not be the exact words, but he said that my understanding of how the body moves and my desire to have my clients actually get into their body to understand how it's supposed to move was something he hadn't seen before. And I seriously had clients who would be like, I don't know what you're talking about. And so at the time, I felt kind of ahead of my time. I was like, this isn't for me. I don't like this. It was a really hard point in my professional life. And I had already discovered yoga, so I was kind of moving from this sense of physical fitness, strength training, into yoga as a way of strengthening. And so when I look back on it all, it was all very perfect, because now I feel like I'm coming back to being able to articulate strength training and strengthening in the body from a yogic perspective, which is really useful, because a yogic perspective is all about that. It's about it is about your awareness. It's about your feeling your oneness with nature. This is my own interpretation. You're feeling your oneness with nature as your physical body. And that's where I've come to in my own spiritual and physical practice. So when it comes to teaching something that is strengthening, then I don't feel I can do that without also sharing a deeper awareness of how the body desires to move. And much of what we do in the gym, we don't have any use for. Like, someone was telling me that, her trainer prescribed crunches. I was like, well, that's cool, but when in life do you lay on your back and lift your head toward the sky? Like getting out of bed, that's when you do, or getting up off the floor. And so why not get out of bed and get up off the floor as a way, because those are things you know how to do. You do them all the time. What about doing those with more awareness and doing things like that so that your core is strengthened? Because the body really doesn't want to just do a crunch, I don't believe. And so I share all that as an introduction to this consideration around something like a squat. And because all day long, I don't know how many of you you reach a point in your life where like, well, I don't like getting on the floor because I can't get up. And so that in and of itself is where I would say that's exactly what we need to do. Let's practice getting down on the floor and then getting up. And we can do it in incremental stages that provide the strengthening to your body that allows you to do that. And it's useful every day of your life. It's something you will never not need, really, because that, I think it will lead to, I'm just going to turn that off, to lead to a healthier, well-rounded, graceful aging. So a squat is in part something that you can use to get down, and you can also lift things with the mechanics of a squat. You can vacuum with the mechanics of a squat. You can rake leaves with the mechanics of a squat. You can lift up leaves. You can carry groceries. Like, I want utility, because that's what we need to do. And so when we're able to do more with consciousness and with the proper strengthening, then we have a more satisfying life. So how I would go about teaching a squat in 10 minutes or so, I invite you to stand up, and I'm going to adjust my camera. And if you can also just watch. You don't need to participate. Okay. So I'm still getting this figured out. I'm a bit headless. So let's see how that goes. A little more. Okay. There we go. That's pretty good, right? Got it? I'm in a new space, not at my house. So, okay. So, first thing to consider is actually your feet on the ground. And so when you take a look at your feet on the ground, if you're in shoes or if you're in bare feet, I would recommend bare feet. So that's another piece of this, is we may not be designed to wear the shoes we've been wearing for the last 100 years. So the more you can spend time strengthening the muscles of your feet and lower legs, slowly, in slow increments. If you're used to wearing shoes all the time, then this isn't something you're just going to do. But when you consider your feet on the ground, you want is your tendency to have your feet pointing out? Is your tendency to have your sink down this way with your ankles? Like, that's actually that's the foundation of all that you do in walking. Are your toes spread apart? I'm actually gonna see if I can show you. Are your toes, do they have a tendency to be tight and closed in this way? Or can you spread your toes apart like you would your fingers? Do they splay? And then do your inside ankle bones come up, or do they tend to do this? Do your kneecaps tend to focus out or in? And just notice the structures that you're operating with each day. Without any judgment of them, just notice what might then begin up the chain. It might affect your knees and your knee pain, or your knee strength may affect your hips and your low back, and it may actually start with your feet and your toes. And so this entire connection is really important to consider when you're, now sitting down is a squat. So this is how I'm going to show you. So once, now you can see why my clients were like, can you just show me how to do a squat? And I never could isolate, like there was so much that affected something like that as a trainer, it was very hard for me to find the clients who were like, okay, I get you, and I want to go this slow. So there are exercises that you can do to strengthen your ankles and your feet, but let's just go into a squat. So ideally, you want to receive the floor. And the way we receive the floor is not, we really are designed to receive. Imagine a newborn, how they're crawling and how they're moving. Like, that's actually how we're designed to receive the floor. They have this way of extending their knees out to the side and receiving the floor with the outside of their foot. And so that's actually the way I teach a squat. So in order to receive the floor, you need to think about your hips and your knees. And so the ideal way to squat is to activate these muscles that are pulling your femur bones into the inside. So you're receiving this way instead of just this way. So it's a very complicated motion of rotating as you receive. So from this position, you want your hips to be back and your hips to be rotated, your femurs to be rotated to the center, so that you can reach your hips back. This is the most important part of the squat. So your hips are behind your knees and your feet, but your feet are really able to receive the floor. You're rotating down, reaching the hip back, and then touch the chair and come up. That is a really beautiful way of strengthening the legs. Stacking, you can even think about stacking this whole column above your hips and then coming up. Ideally, the chair is stable. If you need to hang on to something, then do. And if it bothers your knees to do this motion, then I invite you to think about the receiving part is learning how to reach back further and use these muscles of the glutes. And a couple of weeks ago, I showed you how to find those glute muscles by laying on your bed and extending and imagining that you're laying on a piece of paper and you're pulling the paper apart with your knees. Those are the muscles that are ideal to activate as you're squatting. So if you need to find them first, you would extend your hips back and imagine your knees are pulling the paper apart, and those are the muscles that you want to use as you're squatting. Those are the muscles that want to be strong to protect your knees and your low back. All right. Until next time, be well.